Commissioner Oliver,
Present.
Commissioner Davidson, Commissioner Wilson,
Here.
Commissioner Boyd,
Here.
Commissioner McMurray,
Here.
Commissioner Gooch,
Here.
Chairman Dunn.
Here.
Thank you, Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes from our last meeting, and I find them to be in order. Without objection, I move for their approval.
Second.
That something may not be on. How about that? Jeff, has that ever happened to you? My mic was off and okay, I'm going to lean in even further. All right, this is going to be uncomfortable. So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. I'm taking the liberty to rearrange our order of events tonight. We have, I'm going to move CCRC, Community Care of Rutherford County, to the top of the agenda. We had a motion last month to have a report from the administrator of CCRC on a monthly basis. That was voted. It was unanimous request. I submitted that request to the mayor, who is the chairman of the CCRC board. The mayor responded very courteously with, "We do not have authority over the administration of CCRC." And there's an email to that effect in your SharePoint. And I could read that verbatim, or I can just say that we received a confirmation from Evan Cope, the attorney for CCRC, and he reiterated that CCRC is a independent nonprofit chartered by the state of Tennessee to run a nursing home. That nonprofit has a lease agreement with Rutherford County for a building. We are the landlord of CCRC. Historically, and in that charter for the nonprofit, there's a board appointed to make decisions for CCRC. The chairman of the board by charter is the mayor of Rutherford County. There's one member of the board who is a county commissioner. And that member currently is Paul Johnson, who accepted our invitation to join us tonight. The commissioner who is on the board is the liaison between the board of CCRC and Rutherford County. Until this 3 years ago, the board member of CCRC or the mayor has been a member of the Health and Ed Committee. That somewhere along the way got lost. And we lost our direct liaison, which is a commissioner on the CCRC board. So having said all of that, I think we have them on our agenda, them being CCRC. We're not property management, we're health. In this case, historically, CCRC's been on health and ed. And in that regard, we don't have authority over them, but we've been updated in case there is some financial need that may come up. We're not surprised. Or if their census is low, we need to be aware. Or if there's a pandemic or outbreak, or if there's even personnel items. Not that we have authority, but in times past, CCRC has come to the county for funding. So having said all of that, I would like Paul to just kind of acknowledge his awareness of the role, and then I'd like for us to discuss how do we want to receive updates? Do we want to keep them on our agenda? Do they need to be on budget in addition to property management? Or do they need to report to the full commission with a brief update or quarterly financials submitted to a committee? So I'm not going to dictate what we do, but Paul's here to just acknowledge his role on the board, and Trey may be able to speak to his historical recollections of CCRC, and then I think we'll have us a conversation. So, Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quoting one of my good friends, Commissioner Alan McAdoo, I'll be brief. Okay, the role that I play as the representative for this board and the full commission is liaison, and you got to keep in mind that public health, Department of Health and Ed, that is independent entity. They depend on the revenue from insurance, Medicare, and private pay. And the only monetary that we have is the upkeep of the building as far as the county commission is concerned. So the director has already set in play the minutes, the monthly minutes for the meeting, and any one of you all is welcome. I always have a public comments period. Any one of you all are welcome to any of the meetings out there. And the only thing that we would be interested in, or not interested in, but under our purview, is the fact that any budgetary item, and since I serve on the budget committee, I get 2 shots at it because I'm on the budget committee out there, and then on the budget committee for the county commission. So I do know that in the future, one thing that's going to be affected through the full commission and everything is OIT is going to be asking for some personnel because they're going to be absorbing the service and everything that's needed for community care in OIT. But as far as none of the committees really have the purview of micromanaging community care, and that's it in a nutshell. So if anybody's got any questions, and I like I said, Abby has already set in motion. Y'all are supposed to be getting the monthly meetings,
Yes.
Minutes. So if anyone has any questions as far as that's concerned, I'm sure she would be willing to come up and share that because she's doing a great job. But the county commission really has no authority to do any micromanaging. That's it in a nutshell. So I know that's brief, but that's it.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Oliver.
Good. Thank you. I asked the question about them coming to give their report because we get these monthly reports. Then if we have questions, there's no one to answer the questions. So it's not about micromanaging. It's just getting clarity about what's being presented to us. So if you're saying that it shouldn't be in this committee, maybe it should just be in property management, then we can do that. But if something's come before us and we have a question and no one's here to answer, it to me defeats the purpose of even sending us any information. So yes, I did ask that question, but thanks for the clarity. And then I don't know what this body wants to do, but it would be my opinion that just let it be in property management.
Well, I don't want to be blunt, but I'm going to be just as straight as I know how. I will not be attending health and education committee meetings because that's not under my purview.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I'm getting with all these comments.
Have any
So I get it.
questions, Abby and her staff are through the minutes and so forth and so on, because there's so much information that's private that they couldn't take the chance of some litigation against them for violating some patients' rights.
Sure.
Okay, so.
And I'm very familiar with HIPAA and all of that, and I know she's attended one of our meetings before. I just had asked a question about meetings, attendance, so that we could ask questions. But if that's not under our purview, I totally understand that, and I appreciate the clarification.
Okay, okay. Is that all, Mr. Chairman?
Any other questions? I'm not finished. I think Hope or Commissioner Oliver brought up another avenue. So, Commissioner Johnson, I think have a seat. If you can just hang out a few minutes, or here you go. Trey's got a question.
So you brought it up that Commissioner Johnson, that our OIT staff will be hiring people to do some work over there.
Yes, well, not necessarily work over there, but they'll be taking care of any problems they have with their system and everything. They've been pretty good to voluntarily go out there and work, but I think Cody's going to be asking for a couple more people in the next budget to take care of that. So,
Well, I'm just kind of curious if they're independent nonprofit and has no obligation to report to the county commission, why would we be funding people to do work over there? Could they not pay for that themselves? That's just a question.
say that again.
Well, since the community care doesn't have any, as you say, any preview or any obligation to report to the county commission, why would we fund OIT for them? Why would they not fund that themselves?
You'll have to ask somebody that's got the answer to that.
And I think this is why Commissioner Oliver said is that we have questions and we have no one that can answer the questions. But I agree with you, and I think you made a statement, is that if we have no authority or they feel like we should have no interest, just take them off the agenda. But before we do that, I would like to do some research to find out why are they on the agenda in the first place.
Okay.
Because there could have been, 20, 30 years ago, there could be a reason, and I would like to know that reason before we just take them off the agenda. Does that make sense?
It does, indeed. And I don't want Commissioner Johnson to be to appear to be the authority from the board.
Yeah,
He's here as a courtesy. So I do agree he can't answer all these questions. But I do notice that our Finance Director, Michael Smith, might want to make a comment when he heard your comments, Trey.
Let me correct something there. We do have, the county commission does have some interest in the CCRC through the property management, taking care of the building and everything. But like I said, we don't have the authority to do any micromanaging of who they hire or et cetera. So, okay, Michael.
Want to clarify a couple things. We do, the board this time, we do, by contract with CCRC, we do handle their insurance, has to flow through us. So this year, and I believe it was 2 months ago or a month ago, our risk management department does quite a bit of work from them. However, CCRC has agreed to reimburse the amount of hours that we work for that. You should see a budget amendment coming in August or September for that. Also for OIT, me and the mayor's office looked at, when we started the budget process this past year, we looked and we were providing some support for that. But just like y'all stated, we did not think that support should be free because that's outside of the facilities, outside of the contract. So we do bill them now. They do send us, we usually bill them every 6 months. They do send us money to reimburse for the OIT services. And we don't have a full-time dedicated person, but we do have some of our techs, some of our systems people that do help on a as-needed basis for systems like that. So we do get reimbursed. I don't have that amount in front of me, but they do send us money for that. And then we're starting this year will be the first time they reimburse us for some of the risk management, the insurance, because we do all of their insurance, HSA, FSA runs through both my office and Ed Elam's office. And so just to clarify that, we are starting that conversation with them, and that did get approved. I believe it was 2 months ago. I think it was 2 months ago. I wasn't at that meeting. I just know it got approved. So you'll see an amendment to our budget this year to amend that revenue in and that expense to go to the risk management department to cover that. I hope that helps or clarifies.
It does, and I appreciate that. So, but to sum it up, they reimburse us for any support that we give them through insurance or OIT support.
Yes, like I
Basically.
said, some of that's a little bit of an arbitrary amount. It's not a dollar for dollar, because think of like a risk management, we try to track the hours as close as we can to the amount of time we spend on CCRC, but like when our office is uploading the HSA or the FSA stuff, it's combined with that payroll that ran, so it's hard to break that out. So I believe the CCRC board and the mayor's office kind of came and to an agreement. Ed Elam submitted some budgeted hours for CCRC, so I believe it's close, but yes, in theory, that is correct. They're reimbursing us for the time we spend.
Okay, do you know the answer to this question? Are the employees out there, are they employees of Rutherford County government?
No, they're employees of CCRC.
Do they receive any benefit from?
They receive the option to pay into the county's health insurance system. So we send them a bill, and we bill them their AT&T and long distance and local phone bill. We process that and we send them a bill and they pay us back.
Okay.
But they are CCRC employees. They do their own W-2s, their own 1099s. They have their own EIN number. But as part of the lease agreement, however long ago, they're allowed to piggyback off of the county's insurance.
Okay.
I hope that helps. I don't know if that.
It helps me. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks. That helps quite a bit. Yes, sir. Microphone, please. Yeah, feel free to use the one at your desk if you prefer.
I'm only one of 9 members of the board, okay? And I cannot work wonders.
Are you the only county commissioner on the board?
Well, yeah, that's all that's required.
Just one? Okay. And by virtue of their charter, there's that language.
My payment for my participation comes through there. It doesn't come through the county commission.
Thank you.
It comes through their budget. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. So we did reach out to Nick. I took advantage of Trey's historical knowledge, and I reached out to Trey earlier today, and Trey likewise had reached out to Nick to make sure we're clarifying what is the health aspect of this. Do we have an obligation? And Commissioner Oliver and I are in the gray. Do we? Do we not? Again, even in Trey now, there's no recollection of the historical connection. So I do think that we do need financial awareness, but maybe that goes through budget. Trey.
Well, Nick was was returning my phone call, but I'll call him back later. But I think that if we could kind of research why they're on our agenda in the first place and just kind of move from there. Is that something we can do, Mr. Chair?
Yes, so I have asked our secretary to make sure that that's in the minutes, which will prompt me to reach out. I believe we got Commissioner Wilson, and then Commissioner Phillips has a comment that may impact that. Did you have a comment?
Chairman, I almost always have a comment, don't I?
Your hand up a moment ago.
It seems like after the discussion, Commissioner Boyd's laughing at me. It seems like through the discussion, it seems like this is more of a budget committee. This is an HR pass-through. We talked about most of what happening being reimbursements on that. It seems like the budget committee would be the one to keep up if there's any financial ask, because HR reports to that committee. So it just seems like if in research we don't see a real connection on how Health and Ed was involved, it seems like that would be them reporting to the budget committee, since it's just a financial pass-through situation, would be my recommendation after hearing the discussion today.
And Commissioner Phillips, I think you had raised your hand next.
Thank you. I've got a comment and maybe a suggestion. I go back a long way, and my memory sometimes is not exact, but I think I can come pretty close. Way back when, the Community Care Center was not the Community Care Center. It was the Rutherford County Senior Citizens Home, operated and run by Rutherford County. And that's the reason that it reports to the county itself. there were tremendous financial obligations and a drain on the county's budget. The decision was made back in the 1990s, late in the 1990s, to either close that facility or to turn it over to a management company and let them run it. That was one of the best decisions the county's ever made, was to do that, because we had no business really being in the nursing home business. I don't know if those are the exact dates, and I don't remember the exact details of it, but I know that every month the Health and Education Committee was dealing with problems at the nursing home. So a decision was made, what do we do with it? And so from somewhere around the turn of the century, the county turned the management over to a private entity, and they began to run that. We still have a finger in that pie. The board members, although they are not specifically members of county government, are still appointed by county government. They have to go through the steering committee, and the steering committee appoints them. So there are still some, in my mind, reporting responsibility that needs to happen. The minutes have always been enough, especially since Health and Ed had a member of Health and Ed that was on that board for a number of years, and we've kind of lost that connection. If you guys would allow me over the next month to do the investigation part in it, I'll get with the mayor's office. I'll also get with our county attorney and see what the reporting responsibility should be. It could be just as simple as updating minutes, and then if there are questions that minutes, we can get answers to those things, and see if it needs to continue to be reported to Health and Ed, or if it goes to property management, or if it goes to budget. But I still think there should be at least a monthly minute report that we know some of the things that are going on out there. The Rutherford County Community Care Center is near and dear to a lot of our hearts, simply because from feedback that we continue to get, it's one of the most caring facilities in the state. If I get to that point, that's where I want to go. And if any of you toured that facility last month, I think you would have the same impression of that. And it's developed as years has gone by. It's grown as years have gone by. The maintenance of that facility is pretty much performed through the county, but most of those are reimbursed through the board itself, the community care itself. So when they had an addition, we signed the bond, but they ended up paying the bond back. So there are lots of opportunities that the county has to continue communicating with that board, and I think it would still be beneficial that board report to the county, to a county commission committee, even if it's just continue in the process that we've had. There may need to be some connection with a member of that board, like Commissioner Johnson, reporting to whatever committee that he or she may be assigned to in the future. But if you guys will give me the flexibility and the assignment to do the homework in that, I'll come back with a recommendation next month.
I will graciously accept that. Commissioner Oliver? Yeah.
I move that Chairman Phillips be allowed to investigate the relationship and the reporting guidelines relative to CCRC?
Yes.
Is that correct? And report back to us at our next meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a duly seconded. Any other discussion? Any comments?
I'd just like to say I echo what Chairman Phillips said as well. I mean, it is a healthcare facility, and so we are the Health and Education Committee. So I personally would like to still see it every month. Just for instance, the number of COVID cases that's going up. That way, if we have questions, we can always ask Director Crumby as well. So, but yeah, thank you, Chairman Phillips, for the explanation.
Yes, thank you.
And I think just to kind of dovetail on what you said, the challenge is that when we have questions, we don't have anybody to ask. Because we have had questions. I mean, I've been on this committee for 2 years. But we have questions, but who do we ask? So it's just like information purposes only. So that's why I asked if a representative could be here to entertain questions.
And it may be that a synopsis is done at the full commission level. That remains to be seen. So I think this as any other discussion on the motion, and then I think we can wrap it up. Chairman Phillips, did you have another comment before we vote?
No, the only other comment that I had is that, once again, I'm not 100% sure about the dates or the timing, but I remember way back into the 90s when I was first elected, there was constant financial dealing, and a financial drain on the county. For the past 25 years, all of that has gone away, and the county has responsibility deals with property management and with that facility, and also controls the board to the degree that we, as a county commission, through our steering committee, makes those appointments. They have to make application through steering, and the steering committee makes those appointments.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to allow Commissioner Phillips to investigate and report back to this committee next month. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Johnson, thank you for being here. Thanks for swimming over. Carla, I assumed we had no public comments. You would have twisted my arm, wouldn't you? All right, so thanks for letting us tweak the agenda there. We will move on to the health report. Director Crumby. I will acknowledge that you have 2 items from the health department. The grant is being delayed a month. Just Director Crumby and Michael Smith are going to work on that or tweak it and bring it back next month. Is that sufficient?
That is right. Thank you, Chairman Dodd. Your health department continues to do good work for the citizens of Rutherford County. Hopefully you have our June outreach report made available there to you electronically. In keeping with our mission to protect, promote, and improve the health and well-being of all people in Tennessee, as we protect in this first column with our communicable disease encounters, immunizations, and environmental health inspections. While we're here, I did want to kind of pause and make reference to our TB numbers, our tuberculosis numbers, because we had some relevant questions in past meetings from Commissioner Oliver and Commissioner Wilson. And I just wanted to reiterate that total number there is the total of disease encounters. And encounters are kind of meaningful interactions that we have with patients. So that doesn't denote the total of number of cases. The number of cases is far lower. Last year, we had a total of 1 active TB case in Rutherford County. Some of our surrounding counties had 3. So just to put some perspective there, there's definitely an important thing we want to monitor. And it was an astute observation because there has been an increase nationwide in the past couple years, a 15% increase, and that follows 27 years of decrease. So it's definitely worthy of note, something we will keep an eye on. Just wanted to make that observation there. And moving on, we will promote.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Since you're on that, could you expound upon what do you mean by an encounter?
Encounter, that's like a meaningful interaction with the patient. So that can cover TB, for example. That could cover a screening. It could cover an actual test. It could cover what they call directly observed therapy, where they actually watch the patient take the medicine if they're treating like a latent infection with a long-term antibiotic. So, and that's a term that we use to kind of track our provider interaction with our patients. Health outreach, where we do our health outreach, education, and community participation, diabetes outreach, and we'll cover more in detail our 9th annual community baby shower that we had in June. I'll get into that in a moment. And then we continue to improve with those clinical encounters, the clinical services. We do the men's health, women's health, dental, and our WIC services as well. Just to touch on COVID status in Rutherford County is still low according to the CDC hospital admission metric. 1.9% of emergency department visits nationwide were relative to COVID recently, within the past week. That's up slightly from 1.5% last week of June. You may have heard, though, anecdotally, more people seem to be getting COVID. More has been detected in the wastewater systems. I did learn that something I didn't know, our nearest wastewater tracking is done in Bradley County, north of Chattanooga. So that's regional, but not necessarily nearby. But so what that might indicate is that while COVID is still out there, perhaps it isn't triggering these severe responses that require emergency department visits or hospitalizations. That remains to be seen, but I did want to update you on that. Moving on to recent events, our 9th annual community baby showers was held Saturday, June 22nd in Patterson Park Community Center. We had informative classes on infant CPR, breastfeeding, safe sleep, and more. And we were joined by 42 community partners who served as vendors offering resources to growing families. And we had the aid of over 50 volunteers. We helped a total of 342 families in Rutherford County that day. We had large door prizes, car seats, playpens, and baby monitors. Those were all donated by our vendors. We do still have some baby bags available. If you know any families in need, send them to our downtown Murfreesboro location. We have some baby bags with bottles, diapers, things of that nature. Friday, July 12th, we hosted our annual Red Cross blood drive. We had a good turnout there too, had over 30 donors that day, and we did reschedule that again for next year. This past Sunday, I had the honor of representing the health department at the flag raising at the new Public Health and Safety building in Walter Hill. I believe that is our 4th building that we have raised the flag at in the past year, so that's exciting. August looks to be our, for upcoming events, August is always our busy month for back-to-school immunizations, so we encourage people to go ahead and start that early. Students moving into town, they can come and get their shot records transferred to the state form, and we'll have them ready to go for school as soon as it begins. September 19th, the Ascension St. Thomas Mobile Mammogram Unit will be at our downtown Murfreesboro clinic with screenings provided to uninsured women 40 or older. Please contact the health department at 615-898-7880 for more information on that. And then just recently announced October 15th will be the Tennessee Department of Health Fight Flu event this year. They're moving that up by 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll be able to help more people that way. But on that day and after, flu shots will be free in our clinics. More details to come on that. And as the chairman did observe, that second item, we're going to table that to next week and get some questions answered for Director Smith, and that does conclude my report. Thank you.
Director, I want to say thank you for the baby shower. I attended that. If you all have never been, I urge you maybe next year to attend it. But to see over 300 families, the gratification of you all helping them with the, diapers, bottles, it's something to see. And also, I was going to speak on something else, but I forgot. But could you speak on the COVID variant, the flirt is what they call?
Yes.
I heard there's like a surge in that going across, so I want the public to be aware. It always, we're about to go into that season of flu and COVID and things like that, so
Right.
wash your hands, cover your mouth, just the basic things like that.
You're right. It's hard to do any better than the age-old advice to wash your hands, cover your mouth, stay home when you're sick, things like that. The stuff your parents always taught you. That what they're calling the flirt variant. That is what they're basing the coming fall COVID shot on, the COVID vaccine. It's not going to be a bivalent where they're trying 2 different strains. They're going to focus on that one. And so hopefully that will be more effective for people. And look for that to be available in the fall, too, as well. Yes, sir. Oh, and on the baby shower, I did want to say that's been a long-term pet project of the health department that precedes me. Our previous director, Ms. LaShann Dixon, that was a very passionate project of hers. She was there that day. She's always involved. And it would not be possible without our community partners. We have people volunteer from in-house. Our health educators are pivotal to put that together. But without our community partners, and these are the other faith-based organizations and nonprofits in Rutherford County, without them, we could not do that. So all credit goes to them. Thank you, sir.
Any other comments? I'll entertain a
Mr.
motion.
Chairman?
To approve. Yes, ma'am.
Director, I want to commend you on the baby shower as well. You mentioned that there are still bags at the health department. What do citizens have to do to receive or be able to get?
Simply
bag?
call our main number. Let me grab that for
Do
you.
they need to bring an ID or,
No, and there's no grandparents. As long as you're a caregiver for a child, you just come and ask for that, and we'll be glad to provide that to you.
Okay.
615-898-7880, I believe is our main.
Okay. And then my second question, when I was looking at your metrics and everything, I was recently reading a CDC report on gun violence. And I was wondering, is there a reason why that couldn't necessarily be a metric, or is that anything that your department monitors, since children and teens, suffer most from gun violence?
Definitely a topic of concern. Unfortunately, due to something called the Dickey Amendment, that is not something that we can address specifically beyond reports that are already available.
So that's nothing that your department monitors, so just CDC?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Entertain a motion to approve the report.
So moved.
One of you got to second it.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Byron.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Have a great rest of the week. Need something? Special reports. Michael said he had nothing, no update on that report, so we'll move on to Dr. Sullivan's school board.
Evening, Commissioners. Nothing with action items on the agenda tonight, just some general updates. We are in the middle of course, preparing for school to open. Our principals started back on July 8th. Our assistant principals started back last Thursday. Our teachers start back August 1st. And then students return on August 7th for their half day or 2-hour day, whatever we call it nowadays. So we are very much right in the process of getting school running. Right now, we are in very good shape as far as vacancies go. We have quite a few areas that have been concerns in the past that we've been able to rectify. So I emailed the board on Friday. I believe we had it was 99.2%. Let me pull that up exactly so I can tell you what our fill rate was. The only lag we're struggling with right now is that the State Department's about 2 weeks behind on processing permits. And so you may hear the first couple weeks with classrooms that have a teacher that they just haven't been approved by the State Department yet. But let me pull this up real quick. It was some good news because we haven't always been in this shape, at least the last couple years with new teachers or with teacher positions. So overall, as of Friday, we had 35 certified positions total across our 51 schools. We have over 3,800 certified staff members, so that was 99.2% of our positions were filled. And so that is a very strong area to be celebrated. The North End has been where some of our highest openings were, but even our schools on the North End, such as Laverne Middle, did not have any openings. I think Laverne High School was down to 4. Roy Waldron was down to 2. We're in much better progress than we have been. So thank you all for supporting. Our school board for supporting our aggressive salary schedules the last couple years, but then second, us funding those and making sure you guys had our backs on that as well. So thank you. Classified is still good, but it is not as strong as certified. We had 58 openings with classified staff, most of those in special education, out of 3,200, so still 98.2% fill rate, but there are the majority of those in special education, custodian, and cafeteria. So We'll continue to work as big as we are, over 7,000 employees, or right at 7,000. We're always probably going to have roughly that number. I'm happy with that number as far as an operational standpoint. We never want anything open, but we're in a lot better shape than we have been. So that's just a general update. Other things getting a lot of attention is charter schools and charter school funding. So I'm not going to belabor this, but I did want you guys to have a couple documents. First one, it has Governor Lee's and Commissioner Reynolds' signatures and letterhead across the top. So there was a lot of discussion from various stakeholders, elected officials, community input around charter schools and funding. So the State Department of Education asked us to submit a list of questions. We submitted a list of questions, and then they gave us this official report with the information on it. I highlighted a couple things that were of funding things to be aware of. One is on that very first page, initial funding. So this does talk about having to fund up front charter schools that are not only opening, but something that will start hitting us next year, as that when charter schools add grade levels, we have to upfront that cost as well. So a couple of ours are K-5 right now. As they start adding 6th, 7th, 8th grade, we'll have to upfront those costs as well. On the second page, if you'll flip over, it talks about that second paragraph, that allocations to public charter schools reflect the actual ADM, and so that is talking about how they are funded on actual students. But as you all are very well aware, our school system is funded on previous year enrollment. And so where that is highlighted, actually, let's go to page 3 next. This one surprised me a little bit when I saw it in writing. The very bottom of the page is underlined. If an LEA receives a fast growth stipend or infrastructure stipend, then the LEA shall disperse this to charter schools as well. And so if we receive funding because we're growing, we are going to have to share that percentage with the charter schools as well, as the way it's written in law. So that one we were not aware of until that was written. We received fast growth stipends this year. It moved a little bit. It's a little bit frustrating, and if you wanted to go back and just watch the nuances of it from our school board meeting last week, you receive fast growth stipends if you're over 1.25% of your student enrollment growth from one year to the next. We received originally $4.8 million in December. Then in January, we were told $7.8 million. At the end of May, we were told $4 million, which is why we never budget this funding in general, because it fluctuates so much. And so our final budget from last year was based on $4 million in fast growth revenue. We got a new letter on July 2nd telling us we in fact got $6.8 million. So we had $2.8 extra million that last year that we didn't know existed that we got on July 2nd. So that'll go into fund balance, but that would have been nice to have last year. But you will see that we will have to share that just like we share with Murfreesboro City for whatever percentage of population they have for charter schools. And the last page is page 8. And again, this was strictly to get things from being confrontational, from being political. We just wanted it in writing. Where are the answers? Is the state's TISA funding formula based on prior year enrollment, while public charter school funding from LEA is based on current year enrollment? And they state yes with the state laws beside it. And so hopefully that can just kind of give you some answers. I appreciate the state putting them in writing and actually giving us this document. The next thing to hit on with charter schools.
Are you taking any questions?
I'd be happy to. Happy's a strong word. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious about this fast growth stipend.
Yes.
That you say you all weren't aware of. Was there a question that was sent back to them relative to that as to why that's the case?
The state statute is written as all local and state funds received by an LEA. And so if the state is sending us funding, we would have to share it. My guess is one of the charter schools definitely is expecting some of this money, and so they went ahead and highlighted it.
They are hell-bent on defunding public schools.
They answered that question. It was a direct answer to a question.
Yes.
Question 2.
Yeah, and this could have been question number 6. How does the fast growth stipend calculation work? Our question was around, thank you for pointing that out, Commissioner. Yeah. Yeah, I will tell you what our biggest concern is that it's kind of a double-edged sword, is that if a public charter school that is not an authorized Rutherford County school is enrolling students, that's going to be taken from our enrollment. And so we may not get as much funding because those students would be going to the non-authorized, or to the state authorized charter school. But yet we're still going to have to share the funding. So that's, we have a meeting, a couple of us with some key legislators on Thursday of this week that I'm hoping to be able to just bring some things that, we're, just make the rules equal and we'll be fine. So, yeah. I remember when we had the first public charter school mission in January of 2022, one of the comments made by the Charter School Commission was, this is not going to be a negative fiscal impact. It is $5 million roughly, and that's only 1% of your operating budget. Any county can make up $5 million. And I rebutted that then, and I rebuttal that now, as they have no idea how tight budgets are, especially when it comes down to funding these. So
That fast growth, without, I can't absorb it all, it would be a percentage,
it's a percentage
that follows
of
the
whatever
student.
enrollment they have. Yep. Yep. The other one is one that you probably will hear quite a bit of information around. So I gave you one is the state statute, and then the second one is the State Board of Education ruling. The biggest controversy is, and I say controversy because it's the best way I know how to describe it, is around the state. If you'll just kind of follow with me, we have two groups of charter schools. We have American Classical Academy Rutherford and Springs Empower, which are Rutherford County authorized. Then you have Rutherford Collegiate Prep, which is state commission authorized. And so with the issue is only around funding, and that's been the issue the entire time. When it comes to our sponsor, the two that I mentioned, they can only accept Rutherford County zoned students. So there are within Murfreesboro City Schools a big dual zoned area. So a student can choose, as you guys are well, to go to Murfreesboro City Schools or Rutherford County. However, there is a part, there's the traditional Murfreesboro City Schools that does not have a Rutherford County overlap. So that is by Mitchell Nelson, over by John Pittard, Hobgood, Bradley. That part does not have a Rutherford County school zone. The students that are strictly zoned for Murfreesboro City cannot attend our two authorized charter schools because we don't have a zone in that. So those families are well aware. However, a state authorized charter school can accept students from anywhere in the county. If they accept students not in our zone, we then can charge tuition for the local amount. Because ultimately, we're sending that funding to Murfreesboro City for educating that kid. And if they educated them, we'd be sending it to Murfreesboro City. Murfreesboro City would keep the money, but then we'd be funding the charter school for the local portion as well. So we can charge tuition to Rutherford Collegiate Prep for the students that they are accepting out of district. There's 111 of them. We have had quite a few conversations. Still to this day, Rutherford Collegiate Prep has stated they are not paying that. So we've had several parents tell us that they have been communicated to them that Rutherford County Schools is making you pay tuition. We are making them pay tuition because they're not in a Rutherford County zone. That will attest to about $300,000 for those 111 students. And yes, I envision there being some more conversations around that. We had a conversation with the Tennessee Public Charter Commission, which is their authorizer. They support us in that and saying that it's well within statute and in state board policy. But because that one is very political, I just wanted you all to have a heads up of that conversation being out there. It is well within our law and honestly our obligation as a county school system to make sure that we are tracking our funding, and $300,000 is not something we can just let go to waste. And so we have every intention, and this same thing could happen if another charter school opens from the State Charter Commission. If they choose to enroll students in a non-Rutherford County dual zoned area, then we can charge tuition just for the local portion. We don't charge that family. We charge the Rutherford Collegiate Prep, and then that comes out of what their state funding is. So No, that can be a little bit confusing. This is our first time, of course, dealing with opening charter schools, and all three opened at the exact same time on August 1st. We hope to have enrollment numbers. I know that American Classical and Springs have not hit what their initial projections were. And then we'll have new projections from Rutherford Collegiate Prep once they actually open, but that all comes from the Charter Commission. They are under no obligation to talk to us about that.
And then there'll be a true-up.
Should be several true-ups, yes.
And hopefully, we will get more clarity and transparency from the state. Right now, it's all new, so therefore, it all feels chaotic and unfair. Hopefully, we will get some clear answers. I know the Board of Education, I think it was it wasn't a work session, it was the board's meeting on like the 17th. The board had a vigorous debate about seeking legal counsel to challenge the state on how this is funded. So the board is doing a lot of heavy lifting to help us understand when we're granting them the funds that they're I don't know if they use the word fighting, but they are seeking as much information and clarity as possible. So thanks for that effort. I know it's
not
hard
fun. I'd
to
much rather
talk
not do
about
it,
suing
yes.
the state, but that's on the agenda. But I think y'all handled the debate well, and I appreciate the way you handled it. I think Commissioner Oliver had her hand up first.
Yes, I do have a question relative to the tuition that you're saying you're able to charge this entity that they're saying they're not going to pay. So then what would happen if we said we weren't going to pay them?
We don't have that option. It comes straight out of our state funding to go to them.
So it doesn't come through you to them?
It is a deduction from our TISA funding to them.
Got you.
So.
But the state is saying that they are supposed to pay
Yes.
you. I got you.
That we have that option, and we are exercising that option because it's $300,000.
All right. Thank you.
And it would be much easier, honestly, for us just to say no, but that's not the right thing to do, not with taxpayer funding.
Commissioner Gooch?
Are out-of-county children able to come to the charter schools in Rutherford County?
Not supposed to.
And that's for both types?
Yep, not supposed to.
Not supposed to?
Yep. I'm sure there will be some questions. Especially employees is the one I'm most concerned about because we allow for an employee to come. And so those are the ones that we're going to have to work through the state on. But no, it's only supposed to be for in-district students. And I do appreciate, so my job is yes, it's right there in the state board rule that I believe this state board rule just changed in June. And so I believe that was when this last portion went into effect. It's reviewed annually. You're going to hear discussions. My job as the director of schools is to support the majority of the board. As you guys watch, the majority of my board is usually 4-3, and it switches. And so I have to take whatever the majority of the board says, and that's what I go with. And so that's what the majority says right now at this very moment. And so that's the best answers that I have. You will hear conversation in public around the state gave you, with TISA, $50 million extra. So this is just part of that. We should be okay with it. I'm not okay with it because every other district got extra money as well. We are one of only 3 districts that have a state-sponsored charter school. Memphis, Shelby, Metro Nashville, Rutherford County. So we are the only, and it is just Rutherford Collegiate Prep. If you go look on the Tennessee Charter Commission's website, every other school is Memphis, Shelby, and Davidson County. So I don't know if those districts are just have so many, they don't have the bandwidth to be able to discuss that and fight that, but we're going to make sure that our taxpayer funds are spent the way they're supposed to be. Sorry, I try to be as non-confrontational about that as possible, but it is as split as it can be.
Well, thank you for the information, and again, thank you for seeking guidance and clear answers. And I'm going to remain optimistic that our
Hopefully.
delegation will.
I hope so. Yep.
Will fix
Hope
what
so.
some of this appears to be wrong.
Yep.
I think that concludes your report. We'll of course have student enrollment, all the other items coming up. So thank you for that. We could have considered not having a meeting this month, but I knew with the charter funding, I wanted to not let that delay and overwhelm us when we're looking in enrollment next month. So, and thank you for taking the time to come up.
Personal note real quick.
Yes, you may.
Personally, we have Asher's Celebration of Life on Friday. If anybody wants to attend, they're welcome. We only have seats for about 1,600 because it's the second biggest spot we could get outside of MTSU, but it will be live streamed in case anybody wants to watch that. So just want everybody to be aware.
Where, Jimmy?
New Vision on Thompson Lane, North Thompson Lane.
And what time?
We'll do a quick-ish visitation from 4 to 6, and then it'll be live streamed at 6 o'clock. There's like a 2-minute delay, and I continue to appreciate everybody's support and prayers during that. So, thank you.
I do have a question because initially, and I was going to ask you this privately, but since you brought it up, didn't you say you were doing a scholarship fund or something that we could contribute to? Can you give me that information, please?
Yeah, so we originally had a scholarship for Declan, who battled leukemia, and I made that comment last Wednesday. So as part of my raise yearly, I'm donating it back to a medically fragile student or their sibling. And so I wanted to make sure I kept both of those separate. I was supposed to do it in May. May was not the month for me to do that. So I'm doing that at our first board meeting in August for Declan Scholarship. We are announcing a foundation for Asher's memory. There will be several things that we look at. One, there's not a lot of research for anoxic brain injuries at all, so that'll be one. Second, you may have seen Asher's animals. He was a stuffed animal lover, and so we have stuffed animal collection type things. The third one, I had envisioned him when he got to high school going to Siegel High School for their aviation program because he just loved airplanes. And so I would like to do some type of scholarship to where somebody could, as a senior, have some type of funding to go to that, but also he was going to be in 5th grade this year for a 5th grade student to just have lessons or a private flight at Murfreesboro's airport or Shelbyville's airport, whatever is closer. So I envisioned starting a business may have been easier than starting a charity because I had no idea that there was that much into starting a charity and all those. So it is taking much longer than I anticipated. So thank you for asking.
Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. I might have a few different questions here. I may have one for Chairman Pro Tem Gooch as well. It's going to start with, I want to look out for this particular fiscal year. I would like to start conversations now on the amount of money we're looking at being asked for. So we've brought things up. There's nothing new, but I want to bring it back to our attention because obviously with our budget and with our school board budget, we have spent all of our money. We've budgeted every penny we're getting. There's no additional new revenue coming in from as far as concerning the Board of Education. TISA funds have come in, they've taken care of teacher raises, we've spent the money. We're in an area now that, and please help me if I'm recalling this correctly, we're looking at funding a middle school, having an ask for that. I believe even before that might be the bids coming back for an addition at Laverne High School. And I'd like to hear what you have to say about a report on land on the north end, because should we find it, that's something that will have to be moved on. It's my understanding that the Board of Education will not be funding that. I would like us to have a conversation right now about looking at getting in front of these 3 major line items that we may be asked for, because I don't have it clear in my mind at this point how we would pay for it. And I think we need to think about when land comes up, and I'd like to get some tentative dates on both the middle school and Laverne High School, because these are going to come before this committee first. And before we can push anything through with a positive recommendation, this isn't about need. We need all of these. This is about funding. I don't see where the funding's coming from. I'd like to start that tonight. So in whatever order you'd like to hit some of those in.
We didn't talk about that beforehand, but that's a great question because we talked about it at leadership yesterday. So really 3 things. 4. One, we have exhausted all of our revenue that we can use to fund, from the Beatty Elementary project to South Church Street's building. We're out of that availability. Our fund balance for this year the books aren't, I don't think, officially closed yet, so I don't know what it looks like. Probably somewhere in the 80 million-ish range, but again, we're going to have to use some of that to upfront charter school funding, and then we need that much for operational costs for a payroll till we receive TISA funding. So to get to that aspect, we envision sending Laverne High School design fees went out earlier in the spring. I would hope to be able to send that out for bid at the very latest October. I would love to do it in September. We, of course, have a school board election, and with whoever our school board members are, I would love to hit that in September. I don't know that they'd be willing to pass it on like their first or second meeting. They're probably going to want some background information. We anticipate sending the design fees for the middle school out probably November as well, so that we can send it out in January. So that you were looking at 2 requests between the January and March timeframe. Laverne High School somewhere between 30 and 40 million, and then the Beatty Middle School project between 80 and 100, depending on which architect is chosen. Then the last one, and the one that we have unfortunately passed on 2 pieces of land right now because we don't have funding to purchase land. So we need roughly $5 to $10 million for land on the north end. We have passed on 2 because they weren't far enough north for us. I don't know that we'll find anything further north, but right behind the middle school needs to come the high school on the north end. So that's kind of where you're looking at, somewhere between 120 to 130 million, and you're exactly right. I have absolutely no idea where the funding comes from for that.
This is just the Health and Education Committee. And one thing I talked to the chairman about was there are other needs in other committees and other funds. I believe there's a forensic center that's been talked about here for a year that I expect to be asked about during this 12-month period of this budget. So my question is, what is the best way to go about having discussions before these hit? We know these are coming. These we know are coming. We were told January to March to expect an ask of somewhere between $100 and $130 million. I feel like we need to have discussions now with Michael Smith and with the county mayor. What does that look like? What kind of money do we have available if we got these bonds? If we're looking at $3.5 to $4 million on an annual payment for every $50 million, we need to do some math and figure out where in the budget can we afford to do this. Our folks do not want a tax increase. They absolutely do not want one. And I don't know a commissioner that's even discussing wanting to do that. So where do we find the revenue between now and when it's going to be asked for in our budget without raising taxes to pay for these capital projects? And I'm not sure, Chairman, how we get the other committees together too and come up with a master plan of what will we be asked to fund in the next 12 months that are actual needs. And where's the cutoff point? Because if you tell me we've got $10 and I've got requests for $20, I need to figure out where to spend my 10. And the only way I feel we can do that is to find out from all committees what the full ask, if that's a work session or something we bring up, to have a master plan on everything that could hit us in 12 months and be discussing that now so we can come up with a great comprehensive plan on which ones we tackle first by need. And as our budget representative, am I asking that correct, Trey, or is that something Budget Committee could take up another business on? How do we look at the availability of funds for things we know are going to be asked of us within the next actually 6 months, considering just this $130 million?
Well, I know that Director Smith is aware of everything that's coming down, and I'm pretty sure that he has been looking at some studies on that, but I don't know where he is on that. But that's a good question that different committees can make sure that information, and along with the mayor, available to him, and we can start putting our heads together to see. My questions, and this just popped in my head, I'm wondering if there's a major corporation in the north end of the county that's looking for a tax break that has a little land over here that they're not using. It may be things like that we need to maybe start searching for. I know, back during the day, John Siegel, we need another one of him, I guess, but
Saying whatever building we need to.
yeah. So, is there, some major corporation that, again, that has some land that, that's idle, that they're not going to use. Could that be donated? And things like that we need to start thinking outside the box that we could do. And it doesn't have to be in the north end of the county. It could be, somewhere else. But I think the main need is in the north end as far as land. Where do you find land in the north end of the county? So.
Commissioner Wilson, I want to say you're spot on. You mentioned the words work session, and I feel like in the month of July, maybe that's when we should start having these work sessions to have a vision going forward each year of what we should be doing. So maybe that's something we can start looking into going into next year to plan for these type of things.
Something we always have a 5-year plan. I don't envision our 5-year plan changing from what we presented last November, December. Our zoning's contingent on that, and so I don't envision outside of the cost of increased construction and land that changing, other than adding an extra year this year. So,
and certainly what I'm wanting to do is make sure we're taking into consideration all of the needs for the entire county, all committees, all of the asks, so we can, as a board of commissioners, all 21 of us, have a discussion and prioritize all the needs that include public safety, not just education, but all of the functions that we're responsible for funding. And, I want the folks to know that our goal is to not increase taxes. It is to find the revenue or spend the money we have. So I want to make sure we're diligently showing to the public that that is our goal. And if there's something, or we're far beyond off of what the need is versus revenue, that's when we take the discussion to our constituents and say, what do you want to do? If we don't want to raise revenue by collecting the money ourselves because we've exhausted any help from the state or any other entity, do we want to take that on ourselves, or are we collectively saying we're going to hold off? I just think it's time to start having those dinner table family discussions as an entire county for each of us to take. I don't know a way to combat the problem. You're asking for a high school after this. That's $200 million by the time we get there. And that's within possibly our terms of being that second year. Knowing that's coming, I can't think of a more imperative conversation to start than this one. So thank you, everybody, for the ideas. And any that you have for us to get in front of how to find this funding and how we would do it before we're asked for it. Because it would be hard for me, and please understand this, to put a positive recommendation to approve something and send it to budget without any consideration of how we would fund it. This commissioner can't do that.
A first practical step to start achieving that, do you have a concrete action step, an ask that we can have? Is it Michael Smith, August, talk about he may know each committee's request, from the Public Health and Safety Building to Forensic Center to schools. He may be able to say 7 committees, 5 of them have an ask. Do we start there?
Commissioner Gooch, do you feel, as far as just including budget, do you feel like that's a good place to start would be, let's have a meeting with Michael Smith and just say, we'd like to start collecting from all the committees the different types of capital projects that we might be asked for? Do you think that's a good place to start?
Yeah, I know that Commissioner Oliver's got something to say, but yes, it would need to start in budget.
With Michael Smith acknowledging the committees that get that total committee wants and needs. Okay.
In budget can go ahead and start talking about those, having those discussions now.
Commissioner Oliver?
Yes, and what I was going to add is it could be a part of our monthly commission meetings, and we can have more robust discussion. You talk about not being able to have a work session. We can have a more robust meeting and not drop everything on consent agenda. But this could be something that we could kind of touch on, as we move along, instead of waiting till the spring, since you're bringing it up to be proactive. And that could be part of Director Smith's report or something. I don't know, but that's the time when we know we're all together, and we don't have to necessarily try to get out of here in an hour and a half, but we can, make some discussion and make some plans with that time that we do have.
It could be a part of the budget agenda to, as Mr. P, if we don't have amendments, but we do have, acknowledge every committee's current want and need, and have that gross dollar just out there in front of us. So is there an action step or request from this committee? I think budget is going to take up Phil Wilson's request to have Michael Smith update. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. I think as our budget representative, Commissioner Gooch is going to bring that up, and that sounds like a wonderful starting point. Because once again, and thank you for having this discussion tonight, since we know these are coming, there's no reason to not go ahead and start thinking about that, and I'd love to include other committees. So thank you for doing that. We'll just continue this dialogue constantly. I'm not sure for the next 5 to 10 years we're going to have a discussion that stops on the needs of what we're going to need to fund because of the growth in Rutherford County. So this might be the beginning of trying to get in front and stay in front from this point forward.
And thank you, both Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Oliver said, let's not wait till spring. And so, thank you. Dr.
Question.
Sullivan, and then
Does,
Dr. Sullivan.
does he need to put that in the form of a motion?
I don't think so. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
just asking.
Dr. Sullivan.
Yeah, so you mentioned a high school. I would envision by this time next year we'll be requesting a high school because the timeline at this point is at least 24 months out, and it's more towards 30 months out. So you're looking 2.5 years to open a school.
And I want to make one last point, just last thing I want to say. Another reason for this is it was a request of our delegation in previous deliberations and conversations that we need to inform them of our needs before session starts, as much before session starts as possible. So this is something we could have wrapped up with at least a list of what we think we're going to be looking at the next 12 months. We could hand that over to them as soon as probably something like October and let those guys go at it and try to find any revenue they can to complete any of those things. And because we have other needs, I'll bring up a forensic center as something different other than a school. Maybe there's other funds they can look at. Maybe they can look at grants. Maybe they can look at anything to fund these individual things if we get on that information in front. So thank you, everyone, for that. I think we're off to the right foot of this new fiscal year.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Sullivan, thank you. I will, as I've been gratefully reminded, we do need to have a motion to approve Dr. Sullivan's report. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I could just add to that conversation a little bit. We've got a new fiscal year, actually not maybe a fiscal year, but a governmental year that starts in the 1st of September. So the leadership will be chosen in August and will start serving the 1st of September. The new steering committee will be elected in August and will start serving the 1st of September along with a new committee structure. So to start making decisions before that might be a little bit premature. My suggestion would be that we have this conversation with the new committee structure and make an assignment. Actually, this chairman tried to do that the very first year, the very first meeting that I was chairman of, to ask our chairman of each committee to come up with some type of a plan as to what their goals were for the coming year. That really didn't happen. But we can do that, and with Chairman Pro Tem Gooch's help, we can actually do that and ask each committee chairman to report to what their financial needs, and I don't mean operational needs, I'm talking about brick and mortar needs more than anything else. We can ask them to do that and report back to what that is, maybe in October, and that would be the time frame where we would get with, and Michael Smith would probably already have a handle on all this, and we could report maybe as early as October as to what those financial needs are for this fiscal year and the following fiscal year. So our legislative delegation has made a number of requests, and we've met those requests the last 2 years. Our legislative delegation has failed again to perform, and it behooves me to what we do at going forward. We have no help. We've got zero help from Nashville, and it looks like it's going to be up to us. And those are the type of things that we need to face. We can ask and we can ask and we can ask, but I'm telling you, this commissioner has worked on that for the last 15 years, okay? And it's not happened. It's not happened. And don't expect it to happen again next year or the year after. So we have to put those plans together, Mr. Chairman, as it relates to how we're going to do that, or if we're going to do that. So those requests are that, just a request. It's up to us as a commission to make the decision to whether we're going to do it or not. And the plans that we put together will make the greatest impact on what the commission actually ends up funding as it relates to particular needs. One of the things that the Budget Committee is going to look at this fall, when the new Budget Committee is put together, is a potential source of revenue, and I'm talking about wheel taxes, those type of things. If we can institute a wheel tax and make it effective the first of the year, we'll have a head start on some funding. So those are the type of things that we can do and we need to do pretty quick. So it would be my suggestion to wait till the new leadership team is in place September 1st, our new committee structures put in place. I'm really expecting no changes. And if that's the case, then we can jump into this full bore. So at our at our September meetings, our committee chairmen can work through their committees and present to the commission what their brick and mortar type of plans are, but as early as October.
And we have the good fortune of having the school board's 5-year plan already printed. So that Mr. Wilson.
Well, now I believe we can go ahead and start this conversation with Director Michael Smith, because obviously he can go ahead and be compiling that information, so we're prepared to have that discussion as commissioners. He'll already have that ready, because what we're looking at is just based on the numbers, what do we have to work with, starting out with. Obviously, we have our budget. We know what expected revenues are, what additional funds are available, how tight is that, and then what do we need. So we can go ahead. That's a great suggestion. We can go ahead and do that work with our finance director up front, and then move that on to us so we're in time for the new committee years to start. We go right into the first meetings with that information. That's a wonderful suggestion.
To be real honest, the lion's share of all of this, the great percentage of all of our needs are going to be through the school system. The other things I think we can handle. That's what we're in business for, is to handle the needs of either our public safety department or other particular committees that might have a particular need as well. So, but the lion's share is going to be through funding public education, and Michael Smith and our mayor as well needs to be thoroughly involved in the process as well. So they have a lion's share on it, and I'm sure they're already working on it. So it won't be like we'll have to start from scratch.
But the August, there's not an expected response to this in our August meeting. In all likelihood, the first feedback will be submittal of our commitment to our needs at the October meeting, and then I think Trey can perhaps follow up with. So we're kind of hearing back from the culmination and response from this is going to be November, it sounds like. Is that so? I think our action steps are in place. Okay, very good.
and make a decision on whether or not we want to recommend that to the full commission and/or implement that at whatever particular timing we want to implement that. But as we're looking at the needs next year, it might be that we do it sooner than later. So the Budget Committee will be ahead of that curve as well.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for that, promoting that conversation. I would call that other business. Is there any additional other business? I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Thank you, committee.